One. So I'm sending this, resending this rural development part, the first few pages. I think many of you did not receive it. I'll send them once again. So the very first, we start with the rural development. We already have taken the rest of the chapter. Only a few pages I think did not reach you. So I'm doing it again. Challenges of rural development we take up. So what does rural development mean? Let us see. It means an action plan for the social and economic growth of the rural areas, that is the villages. Action plan is to focus on what? On the lingering and the emerging challenges in the rural areas. Lingering challenges means those challenges which are there in the rural area or in the villages since a very long time. Yes, so the principal lingering challenges are challenge of rural credit, that is how will the farmers get the money, yes, for say suppose purchasing the seeds or manures or for their everyday living. And the next challenge is the challenge of rural marketing. After the produce is ready, what is the best way where they can go and sell their produce? Yes, where should they go and sell the produce so that they get a fair price? Then emerging challenges are basically of two types again: exploring options of sustainable livelihood, yes, and other than farming, that is to explore the challenges, because farming in our country is not very productive in nature, output is very less. So that is the reason why the government is encouraging the farmers to go in for the other types of jobs also on the farm, like cattle rearing or poultry or beehiving and then fishery and so on, so that they can supplement their income. And the next challenge is the challenge of organic farming, that is because organic foods are so much in demand now, so to encourage the farmers to go in more and more for organic farming. So we talk all this about all this in detail. Now the first we take up the lingering challenges of rural development. Yes, the challenges which are since a very long time. The first one, the challenge of rural credit. The rural or agricultural credit means credit for farming. Credit is the lifeline of farming activity in the rural areas. Why? The reasons they have given. Most farming families in India are small and marginal holders, producing just enough for their own living, subsistence, that is. They seldom generate surplus for further investment. Yes, they hardly have surplus every year, which they can use for the next year, the savings which they can use for the next year. Whatever they are producing this year, the whole of it is consumed. The need for credit, therefore, is unavoidable. So that is the reason why they have to, if they want to grow the crops next year, they have to take loans from the various sources. Now, the gestation lag, the next reason they have given, the gestation lag between sowing and harvesting of the crops is quite long. This compounds the need for credit. That is a period, the time gap between the sowing of the crops and the harvesting of the crops is very long. Yes, so for this time after sowing the seeds, yes, the farmers wait for the harvest for a few months, and for that time, from where would they meet their day-to-day requirements, because they don't have any money left. So that is the reason why they need credit again. Then the credit is of the following types. The short-term credit. Short-term credit is basically required for the purchase of inputs like seeds, fertilizers, pesticides and insecticides, besides making payments for, say, electricity bills. Small and marginal farmers hardly save enough to fulfill their short-term credit needs also. They don't have enough money for this also. So these loans are raised generally for a period ranging between 6 to 12 months. Then is the medium-term credit. Yes, they are taken for the purpose of purchase of machinery, construction of fences, say for example, digging of the tube wells or the wells. So this requires a little more money. So such loans are of they are higher in amount, and they generally are to be repaid between 12 months to 5 years. Then we have the long-term credit. It is required for, say, suppose the purchase of extra land or additional land which is costlier. Yes, it costs them a lot. And for, say, carrying out permanent improvements on the existing land. Yes, say using fertilizers to replenish the soil. Yes, this costs them a lot. So such loans are taken for a period of, say, around 20 years, 5 to 20 years. Then we also have the other the loans which are taken for the other purposes like the unproductive purposes. So the credit requirement for farmers may be classified as productive and unproductive. Productive directly concerns with that loan which is taken for increasing the productivity on the farm, like purchase of seeds, manures, fertilizers. All this is going to, or say the purchase of tractors is going to increase the increase the output of the farm. Yes, and then the loans are also taken, credit is also taken for the unproductive activities like marriage in a family, or say for meeting the other needs, like there is a death in the family, ceremonies are performed in our country. A huge amount of money is spent by the families on such ceremonies. So the poor farmers, they take credit for this purpose also. Then we have the sources of credit. From which all sources is the credit met? The institutional sources we have, then the non-institutional sources we have. The non-institutional sources are the conventional sources, that is taking money from the money lenders. Yes, then the zamindars or the big landlords, and the institutional are the banking system. Let us talk about the non-institutional sources like the landlords, village traders, money lenders. All these institutions, they are known as institutions, but they are the non-institutional credit institutions which provide loan to the farmers at a very high rate of interest. So non-institutional sources account for 93% of the total borrowing of the farmers. Yes, they accounted for this much percentage in the beginning of the first 5-year plan. But in 1981, the institutional sources emerged as a principal channel of rural credit. So before that, majority of the farmers, they were depending on the non-institutional sources for the purpose of credit. Then we have the institutional sources. They are the government, cooperatives, commercial banks, and the regional rural banks. So they together accounted for 7% only. Yes, at the first 5-year plan by that time. But presently they account for almost 66% of the loan or the credit is taken from the institutional sources by the farmers. So the total institutional credit, cooperative credit, contributes nearly about 15%, and the commercial banks, they give around 75% of loans to the farmers. Besides these, we have the regional rural banks, the cooperative credit societies. Yes, so all these are emerging as the institutions which are providing credit to the farmers at a low rate of interest as compared to that taken from the non-institutional sources. Then we have the cooperative credit societies. Yes, these societies, they have adequate credit, they give adequate credit to the farmer at a reasonable rate of interest. These societies also provide guidance, yes, in diverse agricultural operations. They guide them what crop to be grown, which season to be grown, how it is to be grown, and what all steps to be taken, how irrigation is to be used. Yes, so the overall knowledge about growing of the crops is given here. Then cooperatives account currently for 16 to 17% of the total rural credit. Yes, so these societies are to ensure that timely and rapid flow of credit to the farmers is there. Whenever the farmers require, these institutions will give them credit. Then elimination of any money lenders, yes, as credit agencies who used to exploit the farmers. Spread credit facilities across all regions of the country, not only in a few regions. Every region of the country should benefit from the credit taken by the credit from the institutional sources. Provision of adequate credit in areas covered by special programs of development.